The original Shenmue games are well known for being technically and visually impressive. Chasing the full potential of what Shenmue could look like using modern technology has long been an obsession for fans. Kid Nokon famously captivated the internet with his fan-made Shenmue HD remaster concept in 2014 that contributed to him being hired to work on Shenmue III. Video game co-development studio D3T would assist Sega in creating an enhanced re-release of Shenmue I and II that was ported to the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Windows that both impressed and frustrated fans. As good as this port was, it still missed the opportunity for greatness by neglecting to give the Shenmue games a thorough HD treatment in terms of cinematic cutscenes, sound quality, and other various blemishes. Soon after this, Digital Foundry broke a story about Sega's abandoned attempt at a ground-up remake of the Shenmue games, and fans were tantalized with the question, what if? What if Shenmue I and II could be cleaned up to their fullest potential? Even if a true remake isn't financially possible, just how well could the original assets clean up on a modern engine like Unreal 4? Enter the Shenmue Dragon and Phoenix Collection, an ambitious undertaking in which a small group of devoted and talented Shenmue fans are, as we speak, engaged in the goal of completing an engine replacement mod for the 2018 PC Shenmue ports that replaces the original engine with Unreal Engine 4. In this video, we will be breaking down what exactly this project is, showing some images of what has been accomplished so far, and sharing exclusive information from a private Q&A session between Segalacious and a member of the Dragon Phoenix Collection team. We've even got a small selection of previously unreleased images provided by the modders themselves, specifically for this video, one of which you've already seen in the thumbnail. Friendmoos, you won't want to miss out on this one. Let's get into it. Essentially, by replacing Shenmue's original engine with Unreal Engine 4, the modders are able to implement a multitude of improvements in a variety of ways. By modernizing the games in this way, the gameplay can be brought more in line with that of Shenmue 3, while still preserving the core gameplay, look, and feel of the original games. Thanks in part to contributions from a number of Shenmue community members, a small team headed by Lemonhaze was able to reverse engineer Shenmue I and II and access assets such as textures, models, animations, and even the game scripts themselves. This makes it possible to focus on smoothing over the rough edges of these impressive but dated titles in terms of visual presentation and gameplay. Without getting into too many specifics, Unreal Engine 4 makes it possible to put modern rendering features to use, such as physics-based shading and real-time ray tracing. Not to mention that the entire map has been stitched together in such a way that each of the formerly separate areas are now joined at their borders. Arcade games such as Hang On and Space Harrier are brought into functionality through the use of LibRetro, an API that allows for the creation of games and emulators. This means there is the potential to add even more games to the U-Arcade and to Ryo's Sega Saturn, which is an exciting prospect. Virtua Fighter 3, anyone? So what is specifically meant by the name Dragon and Phoenix Collection? Well, the goal is to provide for two ways to play the original Shenmue titles. Dragon Edition is intended to be a true one-to-one port of Shenmue I and II to Unreal Engine 4, preserving as much of the original experience as possible, even the aspects of the game that are considered to be dated. Not much will be offered in terms of new features, as this version is focused on polishing the original games to their utmost potential. On the other hand, Phoenix Edition will be a full Unreal Engine 4 reimagining of the original games. The modding team stresses that all the core assets and gameplay present in the Dragon Edition will be present in the Phoenix Edition, along with new features focused on modernizing the games. This could include anything from importing the stamina system akin to Shenmue 3's, complete with consumable items, but implemented in a less intrusive way, all the way to the addition of new cassette tapes at the Tomato Store. With no definitive release date on the horizon, I wanted to see if I could get more information directly from the team behind the Dragon Phoenix Collection. Fortunately, I was able to get in touch with Dewey, who helped to provide screenshots and video of the project. When I asked how the team first came to the conclusion that this project was viable, he responded, "When the re-releases came out in 2018, I think all of us wanted to mod the game to various degrees. As Lemonhaze and others got more and more of the game reverse engineered, it became apparent that the original engine was just a bit of a mess. That's not to say anything bad about it, it's just a product of its time. Point is, it became obvious that replacing the engine was the best course of action if we wanted to actually do anything with these games. From there, it just became a matter of understanding and implementing the various game system in Unreal Engine 4, which isn't quite the Herculean task it seems, since the original engine is fairly modular, in a sense anyway, so each aspect of the game can be implemented and added as it's ready, while we simultaneously work on improvements both visually and in terms of gameplay. For example, the 30 FPS lock. I think it's reasonable to say that the majority of people who played the re-releases would have preferred to see it at 60 FPS. This isn't quite as impossible as everyone has been led to believe, but the steps you'd have to take to run the game at 60 FPS in the original engine with no major issues are just a bit hacky. Question: what exciting discoveries can you share that have been made during this project? Answer: there are a fair amount of things we've found, too numerous to list all of them here, but we have found things such as an alternative beta layout for the U Arcade, which is different from both the final game and what's Shenmue. If memory serves, you can see this layout in some early screenshots. We've also found a few interesting textures, like the set of UI textures that may date back all the way to the Saturn era of development, given the resolution of the texture sheet, among other clues. On top of this, we've also found things such as some cut fighting moves. Sort of. We're only humans, so we don't know all the moves by heart, but we can see that there are more fighting move animations than there are moves. Something of a game of hide and seek at this point for those. Question: what are your biggest challenges with completing this project? Answer: honestly, just getting it done. There's only a handful of us, so it leaves a lot of work to be done, but we've got a pretty good workflow. This is more of a passion project than anything else for most, if not all of us, so it's really a matter of figuring out which tasks are suited to which person, and then getting the task done. Question: how can the community help? Answer: the community can help in a number of ways. If you've got some sort of experience that you think would be useful to us, we'd be glad to hear from you. You can find us on the Shenmue Reverse Engineering Discord. Just reach out and we'll see what we can do. Beyond that, just the general spread of awareness is helpful, as have been some of the suggestions we've already received. We've largely kept ourselves motivated just by seeing the improvement with every little change we've made, and seeing the immediately positive response from the Shenmue community to our announcement and first screenshots has really reinvigorated our resolve to make sure this is the best product it can be. At the end of the day, though, we're all just fans of Shenmue, and we all have our different takes on the series and each of the games. Question: what specific type of activity comprises the workload of the engine conversion? What specific skill are you looking for in terms of bringing in additional hands? Answer: we could use people from all skill paths, to be honest. We could use a few artists to help with things like creating and editing normal maps, or some mesh editing for places where things may not be optimal in a modern engine. For example, last night I found a spot in Dabuita where you can fall through the world. There was an invisible wall there in the original game that doesn't exist here, at least not yet. We could also use programmers just to take some of the workload off of Lemonhaze, since he's doing the majority of the coding for the project. I wouldn't say he's our only programmer, but he's the only one who really has a complete understanding of the original engine. Question: can you share what prospect of this project excites you the most? Answer: personally, I'm excited to see some aspects of the game fully realized. For example, cutscenes. I can't say for certain this will happen, but when we get around to working more on Phoenix Edition, we'll have the opportunity to upgrade some of the audio-visual aspects, so things like an improved soundtrack or improved cameras. These are what I'm looking forward to, seeing cutscenes that actually look like a movie as opposed to just moving the game camera around. I think of it like the difference in cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid 1 to Metal Gear Solid 4. In Metal Gear Solid 1, cutscenes basically just moved the game camera around. In Metal Gear Solid 4, however, cutscene cameras functioned more like movie cameras. You might see the camera lens actually change focus in a scene. With Unreal Engine 4, we can do that, whereas in the original engine, you just can't. This is one of those small upgrades that can really add a lot to a scene, and it really has me excited to see just what we can do with it. Question: Are you able to port all assets of Shenmue to Unreal Engine 4? Even the Virtua Fighter combat engine? Answer: more or less, yeah. We might have to make some artistic changes for some things like free battle, just as a consequence of being a totally new engine, but as it stands, we've got animation and data for the entire moveset, which is where the cut moves mentioned before live. They're just thrown in here with everything else. So physics and movement might wind up a bit different, but all the moves should be there, along with the various visual effects that come from training and leveling up moves. At least, that's the current intent, and we see little reason why we shouldn't be able to achieve that. At this point, Lemonade himself chimed in. Both games mostly use the same format, and the ease with which we can recreate a lot of the original mechanics is basically thanks to switching engines. Interaction in and of itself is something that used to be optimized. This is why you can see heavy optimization in Shenmue and Virtua Fighter and Space Harrier and Hang-On. They all rely on tight timings due to hardware constraints and common design practices of the time, and partially because Yu Suzuki is a mechanical engineer first and foremost. This is evident in most, if not all of his games, where timing and fluidity are a big part of the games themselves. Not to mention, back then, that's just how games were made, so most of the original code for things like interaction, whether it's UI stuff like yes, no, buy, sell, cancel, or something gameplay related like an automatic door. All of those implementations in the original engine are archaic in comparison to modern game development. It was great back in the day, but today it's just inefficient. What we can do in one function, the original game has a series of functions to handle, because it had to be optimized enough to run on the original hardware. Alright friend moos, that concludes the question and answer interview. With such exciting prospects on the horizon, it has truly never been better to be a Shenmue fan. If you would like to help out Lemonhaze and his team comprised of Dewey, David Kuro, and Nicholas D, among others, please see the link in the description below to get in touch with them. Once again, let's support this dream until it becomes a reality. I have been your humble friend moo, Segalacious, urging you to keep fighting the good fight, the Virtua fight. Until next time.